Good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us here on Rwanda Television News tonight. Our hope is that you had yourselves a productive Tuesday. Now here's a sneak peek of our edition. Regional analysts emphasize that mediators in the Eastern DRC security crisis must make every effort to ensure all parties involved demonstrate genuine willingness to engage, as this is the only path toward a hopeful resolution. The government has spent over 41 billion Rwandan francs in the past 6 years on loans provided under the VUP program to more than 800,000 vulnerable households. On the international scale, South Sudan's economic stagnation and rising tensions threaten fragile progress after decades of conflict. We're glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali, and I bring you the news tonight is Martina Abera. Let us start off by informing you that regional analysts emphasize that mediators in the Eastern DRC security crisis must make every effort to ensure all parties involved demonstrate genuine willingness to engage, as this is the only path toward a hopeful resolution. This call comes a day after the EAC and SADC heads of state summit appointed 5 panel facilitators to oversee the peace process. Adam Squizera with more.
During the summit held virtually on Monday, the heads of state named 5 panel facilitators, or our former heads of state from different African countries, who were tasked to fast-track the process to pacify DRC. The new facilitators are Kaglema Motlanti of South Africa, Catherine Samba Panza from the Central African Republic, and Saleh Wagzawalte, the former president of Ethiopia, who will work alongside Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, and Olusegun Obasanjo of Nigeria, who had been previously named as facilitators. Regionalists emphasized that mediators in the Eastern DRC security crisis must take every effort to ensure all parties involved demonstrate genuine willingness to engage.
It's a sign of goodwill. There is a sign of goodwill to appoint a panel of facilitators, even though I do not believe that a big number of facilitators means the efficiency of the process. I think this is, they have the criteria that they based on to appoint them, which is not bad. What we see is just that goodwill of appointing facilitators, and this means that negotiations will take place, because they cannot appoint facilitators if they do not have the confirmation from the parties that negotiation will take place. So what it means is, in near future, we shall witness the negotiation, direct negotiation between AFC M23 and the government of DRC, which is a step forward, because as we have been seeing and hearing, the government of DRC had been saying that it will never negotiate with AFC and M23. But now that a panel of facilitators is appointed, this means that negotiation will take place. So this is a good sign, and this is a good step forward.
This summit took place just a week after Qatar joined the mediation process. Notably, since the meeting, there has been a shift in DRC government's rhetoric, moving away from outright rejection of talks and other forms of engagement with the Congolese AFC M23 rebels. Kasumina Jean-Baptiste finds this development as a hopeful step towards a genuine commitment to achieving lasting peace in the region.
I think Africans are advocating for an African solution to African problems, which differs from the initiative that was brought by Qatar. So I believe they all have something in common. They want the security situation in DRC, in Eastern DRC, get improved. So this is one. But the way they combine, or the way they work together, I think this needs to be done. They need maybe to sit down and see how they can harmonize their processes, or one can just negotiate and broker a ceasefire like we have witnessed very recently, and maybe the other will work on practical and technical aspects of the negotiations.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ambassador Olivier Nduhungirehe, emphasized that this sense of hope must be reinforced by genuine political will from the DRC government to ensure the meaningful progress towards lasting peace.
Twavuze kuva kera ko iki kibazo kizakemurwa nuko guverinoma ya Kongo.
We have reiterated many times that this issue must be addressed through genuine political will demonstrated by the DRC government and the implementation of agreements signed long ago. Since the end of the Second Congo War, over 10 agreements have been signed but never fully implemented. So, where there is a hope, what we need is true political will to facilitate dialogue and ensure these agreements are put into action. However, this development came after Belgium signaled indirect military cooperation with the DRC government, a move that analysts believe could hinder progress and potentially set back the peace process.
If this is the case, then of course it will undermine the process, because you cannot fight and negotiate at the same time. And I cannot guarantee that they will win that war, because before them, some other actors came before them. They came in as fighters. They joined the government forces. I may give you the example of the Sami DRC, which had more than 4,000 armed troops and equipment in DRC. Burundi had about, if not more than 10,000 men and equipment. Wazalendo are more than 20,000, mixed with FDLR. DRC government had about 6,000 or more troops fighting that war, but their number and their equipment did not stop M23 to defeat them. So if Belgium wants to come and join that mess, I think they will be added to the long list of those forces that were defeated, because they lack something very significant, which is the cause of coming to fight in Eastern DRC. So if they are there to sabotage the process that is underway, yes, maybe they may succeed in that. But winning that war, I'm not sure.
A few hours before the summit, the government of Angola announced its decision to end its role as a mediator in the ongoing conflict between DRC and the AFC M23 rebellion. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
Thank you, Adam Squizera, for that report. The Senate's plenary session resolved to invite the Prime Minister to provide a detailed verbal explanation on the challenges identified in decentralized primary healthcare centers, known as health posts, and the government's strategies to address them. After analyzing the report on their field visits across the country, senators acknowledged that these healthcare centers have significantly improved access to medical services and addressed many health challenges faced by the population. On the other hand, senators found that these health posts is facing several challenges, including the frequent closure of some of these health posts, some of these facilities operating in administrative cell offices, which hampers service delivery, limiting operating hours as some do not function daily or around the clock, as well as lack of performance-based incentives for healthcare workers, among other issues. As a result, the Senate's plenary session requested that the Prime Minister appear for discussions and present the government's strategies to address these challenges. Across the country, 1,280 primary healthcare centers have been established, primarily in administrative cells that previously lacked any healthcare facility, whether public or private. The government has spent over 41 billion Rwandan francs in the past 6 years on loans provided under the VUP program to more than 800,000 vulnerable households. However, members of the Chamber of Deputies have requested the Ministry of Local Government to review the disbursement of these funds, as citizens have reported that they are not being used effectively. On the 28th of February, the Chamber of Deputies resolved to summon the Minister of Local Government to explain some of the issues raised by citizens regarding the VUP program. The low-interest loans intended for vulnerable individuals were specifically highlighted by the deputies as an area of concern. This is where some deputies expressed concerns that the objectives of this program might not have been fully achieved. The Minister of Local Government, Dr. Patrice Mugenzi, explained that there are measures that have been put in place to address these issues. The VUP program was established in 2008 with the aim of lifting citizens out of poverty. By 2016, the program had contributed to reducing poverty by 24%. Rwanda is set to establish infrastructure to track revenue generated within the country by major global technology companies. This was highlighted by government representatives during discussions with the parliamentary committee responsible for the national budget and state assets as they reviewed new tax legislation. Government officials explained to the deputies that these tax reforms aim to expand the taxpayer base to support the country's national strategy for transformation NST2 development goals. One of the key reforms is the introduction of a digital services tax on multinational tech companies offering online services, including streaming platforms like Netflix, e-commerce giants like Amazon, and social media services under Google, such as YouTube. The Commissioner General of the Rwanda Revenue Authority, Niwenshuti Ronald, outlined the initial steps being taken to implement this new tax on digital services.
Infrastructure systems tuza developinga stakeholders tuzakorana nabo amabanki.
There are infrastructure systems that we will develop, as well as financial institutions that will collaborate with, along with those companies. Most people want to be compliant, and most of these companies want to contribute to taxes, but what they need is a platform.
Contributing umusoro ariko aho cyo bakeneye ni platform.
The Commissioner General of the Rwanda Revenue Authority explained that there are specific reasons why these vehicles will now be subjected to taxation despite previously being exempt.
Imodoka zirimo kwinjira inyinshi ziraza zishaje za hybrid cars.
Most of the hybrid vehicles being imported are old cars with battery issues to some extent. In some cases, people import cars that have been used for 10 years or more. However, what we don't want is for a Rwandan to purchase a car only to start experiencing issues within a few days.
Aragura imodoka ya hybrid ariko kagira ikibazo mu minsi mike.
Members of the Parliamentary Committee on Finance and Economic Planning received explanations from government representatives regarding these tax reforms as outlined in 3 tax bills that began to be reviewed on Tuesday. These bills include a law introducing taxes on income, a law imposing a value-added tax, and a law introducing taxes on goods and services purchased. The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, has urged young people to seize the opportunities provided by their country, work together, and resist those who seek to instill hatred and division among them. He made these remarks on Tuesday while engaging with youth during a program called Rubyiruko, Menya Amateka Yawe, loosely translated to Youth Know Your History. The minister discussed Rwanda's pre-colonial history, colonial era, and events leading to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi with over 1,000 young people from the 3 districts of Kigali City, Gasabo, Kicukiro, and Nyarugenge, as well as Bugesera, Kamonyi, and Muhanga districts. The youth emphasized that learning about their history helps them understand their origins, shape their future, and gain valuable life lessons. Minister Bizimana reminded them that they have opportunities different from those who were born into a society divided by ethnic discrimination. He urged them to reject hatred, embrace unity, and avoid individuals who promote division. Rubyiruko Menya Amateka Yawe is an initiative led by Minubumwe, traveling across the country to educate young people on Rwandan history, the consequences of good and bad choices, national values, and their role in preserving Rwandan culture, protecting achievements, and building a brighter future. Now, on Tuesday, the Truck Drivers Syndicate, which handles imports and exports in Rwanda, handed over a newly built house worth over 12 million Rwandan francs to Marte Mukamuganwa, a survivor of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Her previous home collapsed, prompting the syndicate to step in and build her a new one. The head of the Truck Drivers Syndicate emphasized that supporting genocide survivors is part of their commitment to contributing to Rwanda's development. The vice president of Ibuka in Kicukiro district has commended such initiatives for complementing government efforts to improve the welfare of genocide survivors. According to Ibuka in Kicukiro, in 2023, the district recorded 186 genocide survivors in need of housing and 214 requiring home renovations. Marte's new home includes 3 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, and a bathroom, as well as modern amenities. The United Nations emphasizes that if the opportunities given to women and girls are not utilized effectively, it could have serious consequences for women's development. This was stated today when UN agencies operating in Rwanda celebrated International Women's Day, which is usually celebrated on the 8th of March each year. Enora Gladys has a detailed story.
Rwanda is one of the leading countries in women's development. This is well known globally, including by the United Nations. This was further emphasized today when the UN agencies in Rwanda celebrated International Women's Day. Young girls who attended the event say they gained a lot from it.
Advocating calmly and boldly, like it was mentioned, also making sure that you are voicing out your issues. She said, space is not just gotten, you have to fight for the space, and that's the sad reality that women face nowadays. So we have to go to the room prepared. There is a lot that you can do. You do not have to be the founder of an NGO. You do not have to be, you don't have to have all the money in the world before you can make a change. With whatever you have, whatever skill it is that you have, remember that a woman's struggle is also your struggle. So don't be ignorant and don't just be reluctant.
You don't get space, you take it. So one of the measures that I'm planning to do is taking up the space, speaking up, standing up when it's necessary, and also ensuring that all the girls know their rights, because I'm really interested in laws and reforms that have been put. So what we have to do is how can we implement them and make sure every girl knows they have a right and they can complain when necessary with evidence and specific things.
The UN Women representative in Rwanda, Janet Kem, highlighted that Rwanda is a great example of what is possible in advancing women's development.
I may not be the best person to talk about the progress in Rwanda, but since I work here on behalf of UN Women, I can say a lot of progress has been made. For me, as UN Women in Rwanda, what I keep saying is Rwanda, we want that story out there, is to document, is to really bring these stories together, these successful stories in women and leadership, in legal reform, in policies, in networking and building. We need those stories to motivate others.
The Director General of the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, Silas Ngayabusha, highlighted that many achievements have been made in women's development, but there are still challenges that need to be addressed.
Indeed, Rwanda has achieved a lot. Rwanda has made strides in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. But I wouldn't say that we are in a paradise of gender equality. We still have some milestones to achieve. We still have to work on the environment, on transforming the environment to make it more enabling for women and girls to enjoy equally the same rights as men and opportunities. We still have to do a lot to ensure that potentials and aspirations of women and girls are equally valued and favored.
Statistics presented by the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion this year show a decrease in the number of women engaged in small-scale farming, dropping from 72% to 68.5%. Additionally, about 96% of women now have access to financial services. In good governance, women are represented in decision-making bodies, with the Constitution requiring at least 30% representation in all elected bodies. In Parliament, women make up 63.8%, in the Senate 53.8%, and 26% of the local government leaders are women. Enra Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Ngiye icyo mbaza ni kimwe koko hari umuntu ugihagarara ku nyama muri iki gihe koko uretse nitaba umukiriya kiriya biteze
ariko tayi aho kusoreza imyenda wibereye kuri telefone kweli
ariko ni kuwa mbere nawe wagwa wamo uracyari wose icyo nakubwiraga wa muntu niko ye umuntu w'umugabo ku bukwe bwe akambara kositimu itukura iciye n'amaboko noneho none se uyisuza
si wombwiye ngo ngwe muse
ntabwo ari ibi navugaga
wamo kuwa mbere kanda akanyenyeri 345 akanyenyeri 2 urwego maze nawe ugwemo. Wikwisondeka.
Welcome back to tonight's English news edition, and heading it over to stories making headlines on the international scene. South Sudan's economic stagnation and rising tensions threaten fragile progress after decades of conflict. Despite a 2018 peace deal, political rivalries, unpaid salaries, and militia violence persist. Oil wealth fuels inequality visible in Juba's luxury, while infrastructure crumbles and crops rot. Global sanctions fail to curb corruption, and spillover from Sudan's war disrupts oil exports. Amidst this, small-scale coffee farmers cling to hope, cultivating high-quality beans as a lifeline. But without stability, even their hard-won gains risk being erased by renewed fighting. Al Jazeera with more.
Patrick Rodolfo never went to school because of war. He survived nearly 70 years of armed conflict by growing food to eat. Now he's nurturing coffee bushels. He hopes their rare beans will pay for his children and grandchildren to have a better future.
When there's conflict, what we plant will be burnt. There are many groups and we don't even know who's behind it. We just want peace.
Excelsa coffee is from here. It thrives in the fertile soils of Western Equatoria State, where there's plenty of sunshine and rain, but little investment in agriculture. Most of this season's mangoes will rot here, while South Sudan's fragile 2018 peace deal is straining under the weight of rising political tension and violence. Investors in a timber company that plans to buy Patrick's beans dare to be optimistic. The company's helped about 1,000 small-scale farmers start growing Excelsa while researching methods on this plantation. The bean's resilience is exciting the industry amid a growing global coffee crisis caused mainly by climate change. Business investments like this need infrastructure to succeed, like roads for taking produce to market. But there's little sign around here, or in most of the country, of any investment of the hundreds of millions of dollars of oil revenue that South Sudan has collected since independence. The wealth is visible in the capital Juba, in luxury cars and apartments that have appeared since secession from Sudan in 2011. Campaigners say US sanctioning of government officials for alleged corruption hasn't stopped the flow of missing millions. The coffee buyers say they're now cut off from most of their outgrowers because of gunmen killing people on the roads.
It's Excelsa coffee, right?
Andre Almeida says it's a world away from the coffee farm in Brazil on which he grew up and where he won global awards. But he says the coffee here is incredible.
The yields are good, the quality is good. Like I processed this coffee and I have drink the coffees from the entire world, the best coffee from the entire world, and this is compared to the best coffees in the world. But we need peace.
Farmers like Patrick can earn around $1,000 a year from a few dozen coffee plants if they can safely grow and sell their beans. That would more than double his income. People here have been waiting generations for a chance to build things up. Another war over oil wealth risks knocking them down. Malcolm Webb, Al Jazeera, Western Equatoria, South Sudan.
Syria's civil war has taken a devastating toll on its children and their education. The government says nearly half of the country's 18,000 schools are in ruins. The United Nations estimates about 2 million children are currently out of school. Al Jazeera once more.
Razan Al-Najjar has been a teacher for 10 years and has never had a class this big. Before the war, she would have 30 students per class. Now she has double that, and the number increases every month.
Despite having 65 students in my classroom, I strive to do my best. As teachers, we pray for the strength to excel in our roles and uphold our dedication to this noble profession.
The civil war in Syria has damaged or completely destroyed thousands of schools. According to the charity, the Norwegian Refugee Council, about 1/3 are no longer operational. Since the fall of the Bashar al-Assad regime in December, hundreds of thousands of Syrians have returned home, and many children are going back to school. But there are not enough classrooms to accommodate them.
I hope we can have more classrooms to ease the situation. We all wish we had fewer students per class to create a better learning environment.
To cope with the overcrowding, schools in Duma have introduced shifts, with half the students attending classes in the morning and the other half in the afternoon.
The classrooms are overcrowded, but these students say they are happy to be here. Many of them haven't been to school for years because of the war. They also know that thousands of young Syrians are not as lucky and don't have a school to go to.
The new government says nearly half of the country's 18,000 schools are in ruins, and it's working to rebuild them.
Rebuilding destroyed schools is a top priority. By restoring these institutions, we are shaping a promising generation, not just for Syria, but for the world.
Teachers say they don't expect the situation to improve immediately. And Najjar says she will never turn away a student who wants to learn. Hamza Mohammed, Al Jazeera, Duma, Syria.
And that Al Jazeera story marks the end of our bulletin. Before we close off, let's have a recap of our stories. Regional analysts emphasize that mediators in the Eastern DRC security crisis must make every effort to ensure all parties involved demonstrate genuine willingness to engage, as this is the only path toward a hopeful resolution. The government has spent over 41 billion francs in the past 6 years on loans provided under the VUP program to more than 800,000 vulnerable households. On the international scale, South Sudan's economic stagnation and rising tensions threaten fragile progress after decades of conflict. And on that note, on behalf of the news production team as well as the technical team, we would like to thank you for sticking with us on RTV News. My name is Martina Avera, and up until next time, stay safe and have a good night.
ndabashuje mbifuriza n'ikaze nshuti bakunze b'amakuru y'iteganyagihe mwateguriwe n'ikigo cy'u Rwanda cy'ubumenyi bw'ikirere Meteo Rwanda. Tujye kureba iteganyagihe ryo ku munsi w'ejo ku itariki